Well, absolutely. A very insightful session here at the Gallagher Estates. As you know, it's all about NEV's inaugural summit, really exploring a number of issues in terms of the EVs trends right here in South Africa, but also looking at how the African continent can tap into these opportunities. I mean, you talk about the green economy, but one of the key players this year is Chery South Africa, obviously a very important player in this space. And their director is here with us, Neel Hariram. So thank you so much indeed, sir, for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Lovely. So first and foremost, Neel, let's talk about the importance of NEV. I mean, Gauteng is well positioned. This is South Africa's economic hub. A lot is happening. So having this summit here, what does it mean for this province?
You know, I think let's look at NEV. It is the global trend at the moment. And Chery has taken very big, bold steps. We are based here in Gauteng, our head office is here, of trying to move the NEV space forward. So as you said, I think we spoke about 3% at the moment.
Yeah.
We've actually taken a position of actually introducing a model for each of our NEV model for each of our IC models. So our Tigo 4 has a HEV, Tigo 4, Tigo Cross, we have a Tigo 7, the PHEV, Tigo 8, PHEV, Tigo 9, and our motors and J-Cruise we on the same. So the importance of what I'm saying is we've based ourselves here, right? Because this is the economic hub, right? And this is where the change will start. Yes, we understand Western Cape may have some also strategies because of the being along the coast, so you need NEV vehicles. But where we start with Gauteng, it is the economic hub. It is a higher priced vehicle at the moment, which will come down as we start importing more and more energy vehicles, new energy vehicles, and building more new energy vehicles.
I mean, obviously, Neil, this happens at the time where South Africa is chairing the G20, and the issue of climate change. I mean, it's very, very key for South Africa's G20 presidency. So for the players like yourself, what can you say to those who are still struggling with anxiety, who are still stuck with, the past era, in terms of contributing to fighting the very severe impact of climate change?
I think climate change has been on our lips for the last 30 years. And we look at the CO2 emitters around the world, and there has been, different editions of COP where we have signed the agreement on becoming carbon neutral, or not carbon neutral, becoming carbon free. And I think in South Africa we're quite lucky. We are not a heavy polluter in terms of the NEV vehicle. I mean, in terms of IC vehicles, the number of vehicles on the road. Also, our urbanization is a bit more spread out. But it doesn't stop us from thinking of the future, thinking about our kids, and how we need to position the NEV vehicles, not only in terms of the environmental sense, but also the economic sense for the social economic environment for South Africa. Because we're not a Europe where everybody has access to a car. So we need to move people from a taxi, which is generally a diesel vehicle or a bus, move them into a small motor vehicle, which is a petrol vehicle, into something of an NEV. So there's a different progression of the South African communities towards that generation of the cleaner environment. And we do pay the carbon tax. And as we start bringing in more NEV vehicles down, the carbon tax will drop to the consumer.
Let's look at the significance of such a gathering where, as industry players, you're under one roof, but also one of the major issues that was under scrutiny has to be the white paper. And in terms of the supports from the government, do you think it's sufficient? What can be done in terms of making sure that the industry will see those barriers being removed and be able to create those desperately needed jobs?
Yeah, I think desperately needed jobs is the critical point. We've seen the auto environment has going through ups and downs and retrenchments and pretty much maintain the same job level over the last few years. How do we move to the next step? So the events like this specific event, so Chery has been very much more vocal this year, and it's a third type of event. So Tony Liu is our CEO, and he'd always said our event is to protect the jobs or create the jobs. How do we go about doing this? By investing, bringing more business into the country, right? And NEV is the space that we have to work in. We do have the raw materials. We need to develop the refinement of those raw materials to be used in a manufacturing space for NEV. So there's already 3 spaces that we can build that we're not totally accessing at the moment. So I think that's very critical for the government to come together to understand the white paper, which is focused on manufacturing. But you also have to have a stimulus, how to stimulate the NEV market as well. Maybe education, maybe an incentive, but it has to work hand in hand, because we need to be very cognizant of protecting South African jobs from focusing on maybe something that happens from externally, like a US tariff that does affect local jobs at the moment. And so these are the balances that we have to come into play. And the white paper does speak about manufacturing, but there are other areas of government that they need to actually start focusing on.
And Neel, what can we learn from the Asian countries? I mean, during the panel discussion, you spoke about your experience working outside of South Africa, but also just in terms of our education outlook, how do we reposition it so that we're able to embrace these profound changes that are unfolding all over the world?
So again, I think what I spoke about was Cherry Technology, where we are a owner or partner of our components supplier or supplier base with our manufacturing base. It's very critical that this type of, I think let's call it insourcing. I think everybody has moved to the outsourcing terms of, since 1994, I've seen we were insourced in the past. And then we've just gradually moved to outsourced environments. So the idea of Cherry making sure that we try to bring that same business model, the Eastern business model, because now people are more hungry. There's more competition for jobs. So there's more there's more passion, there's more drive to earn an income. And there is that opportunity of being in a different environment, different companies, maybe a Cherry or any other OEM in China, but there is the access to jobs. In South Africa, we have educated people going into internships and not being employed in the next future. So this is where the big challenges come. How do we move the manufacturing space or the R&D space or the engineering space to create these new jobs? And that's very critical for us to learn from the East. We've just taken a few government delegations to China to understand this aspect of the Chinese, because we're very Western focused. So I'm lucky enough to work in both environments to see the different methodologies come into play. So I think that we need to learn as South Africans, be open to the fact that let's look to the East to learn, not to take over, but to learn.
All right. Neel, thank you so much. Of course, Neel Hariram, one of the directors of Cherry SA, really talk about the importance of this gathering, but also just the ecosystem within the NEV and how they're really just leading in terms of transitioning to this very environmentally friendly point. So it's been day one, it's been highly insightful and very informative with the policymakers, so many key stakeholders as well. So we will continue to keep you informed during the course of the day.